your challenge at TPE 2025. We almost didn't make it, but it's a good thing because we were able to encounter Mr. Tim Swale of Boveda. I like to say Boveda, Boveda, whatever. Boveda.
Yes.
And I like that because now I can say Boveda and piss people off sometimes. Anyhow, Boveda, and company's been around for a long time.
27 years.
Wow, you're coming up on the 30 in a couple.
Yes.
Okay, very good. Well, good to hear. It's a proud pleasure and a privilege. I'm going to mess up my P words to meet you. I was directed to you by that crazy guy over there that I've talked to in the past. He didn't even notice me. I like that.
Yeah.
I just kind of blended in. So just very quickly, Tim Swale, correct?
Correct. Yes.
What's the origin of that name?
Well, I don't have all the details, but I do know that there's we have a little bit of a connection up into the into kind of the Irish-Scottish area, but also through Quebec. There's a little bit of a French-Canadian connection within that, but I don't have all of it, but somewhere in there. We have a lot of Irish, Scandinavian, German.
Yeah.
We're kind of a mutt, as they say.
Hey, join the club, brother.
That's right.
Join the club.
Yeah.
Have you ever done one of those DNA tests?
There was a little bit of, my father tried to do a little bit of a trail of that. My mom's done a DNA, and so there was a lot of Irish and Scandinavian in there, and German. So that's,
and I'm not a scientist or anything like that, but as I understand it, the maternal version of the DNA is, I've heard it's more restricted than the male part, and I don't know why.
Yeah, I don't know. They say if you want to find out, go to the maternal side.
Yeah, Well, cool. Well, kudos on that. Yeah, interesting.
Yes.
I've never, I got a thing for names.
Yeah.
I wouldn't go as far as to call it a, I don't even know what word I would use, like a fetish or whatever. I find names highly interesting.
Yeah, they are interesting.
Yeah. So, and I've never encountered that.
Yeah, and everybody has a story, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's the point. And
Literally.
you like to hear the story. And
absolutely, I do. You know, but I'm easily entertained. So did you? Are you one of the original founders and designers of Boveda?
Yeah. So we had back in 1996, there was 6 of us that got together through different means of connections, but the main founders, 2 of them are the co-inventors of the technology that were retired from General Mills, a senior food formulation chemist, a packaging engineer. My main business partner and I, Sean's CEO and I'm executive vice president. We've been managing and running the company since 1997 when we formed the company, but all of us had unique skill sets and all came together, and here we are 27 years later, and since then we've had one of the co-founders pass away, another one's 93 years old, because when we started the company, they were in their 60s already, and we were in our 20s. Sean and I were in our 20s. So
came in early and had gentlemen that were already established in what they did.
Yeah, in the technology side. I mean, we had to form a company. We had to develop a company and a brand and market it and get it out there. And so we've been running and managing the company since we incorporated July of 97.
97.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and you mentioned the co-founder who passed away.
Yes.
What was his age?
Well, he passed away, he was in his 70s. His name was Dr. Al Sari.
Okay.
And he's really the brains behind the technology. He was a chemist. Yeah. So if our technology is based on salt and water. So when you saturate salts, depending on what the salt is, you get a relative humidity. So if you take, let's say you take table salt, which is sodium chloride. If you saturate that in water, you will get 75.5% relative humidity on the head.
Just hits it.
That's it. It's inherent.
It's like it's a recipe.
So you can mix different salts to get different relative humidities, and that's what we've done. So we created, like on this one, 69%. It was not a published salt formula. It was through Dr. Al working in our lab, doing different iterations of formulas to try and find a salt that was, number one, stable, meaning that it could maintain humidity over wide ranges of temperatures, but also had capacity to be able to give off or take in and stay flat for a very long time. So you can get some salts that you work with that might get to a relative humidity, but as soon as they lose their moisture, they drop. That's kind of like a glycerin or a sugar-based does that. That's why salts are so important, is because they will flatline that relative humidity over a long period of time in broad ranges of temperatures, whether it's adding or removing water. So that's the technical side of it. But Dr. Al was just a brilliant individual and has many patents under his name, and you know, as a company now, Boveda, we have over 15 patents that we've done over the years.
Interesting.
Yes.
That's very, and I've always been, well, not always, I'd say for the last several years, I don't know when you came up with the 69% relative humidity, if I'm using the right nomenclature terminology, but I was curious as to how you come about with a 69% versus a 72%, which is typical for the cigars, and even why. You know, why you would want. I've always heard 72% for your humidors, and I was always kind of curious. Okay, well, maybe in a high humidity area, maybe you want to have it be 69% for some preservative reason for your cigars. I don't know the reason why. Do you know?
Absolutely. So, in the old days, when you try to maintain cigars, every product has a water activity or a set point where it likes to live and survive. Food products do, cigars do, wood does, like at 49 or 50%. So,
and let me jump in real quick. And that's like to avoid mold and mildew, that kind of thing, or
yes. And so that you know, if it's a food product, it tastes ideal at whatever water. When we say water activity, that's a scientific term. That means what is its relative humidity that it's ideal at. Well, cigars are anywhere from like 65 to 72. So they always said 72, but that was when they only had one-way humidifiers. You know, sponges that you put water in and it would spike the humidity, and all you're trying to do is stay in a range, but you can't control it. And that's why we became so instrumental in the industry, is because we could get to 72 and hit it. We can get to 69. But to answer your question, one of the reasons we came out with a 65, a 69, a 72, a 75 was to show people that we actually can control humidity at those levels
at a specific point.
Yes.
Hitting that mark.
And this is like, scientifically it's called Raoult's law. It's just salts have inherent abilities to regulate humidity. That's it. There's some published, some aren't. And we in our lab have developed some that were unpublished. And that's where 69 came in. Now, that's at the mercy of what that salt formula does. We can't go out and say, oh, you know, let's say that something needs to live at 55% relative humidity. Well, we could go and see if we could get salts to get there, but we might get to 56. We might get to 54, but you know, you're close enough to what that product needs, and then we maintain it. So, you know, we have 62, we got 58, we have a 49% for musical instruments. Wood and musical instruments like to survive anywhere from 40 to 60. So if you get 50, you're very safe. Well, ours became a 49, so we just call it a 49 because that's exactly what it is. So that's,
and still within the safe zone for wood musical instruments.
Absolutely.
Or you kind of, I'm really kind of thinking this through a little bit more than I probably should. But even maybe the strings on a musical instrument would probably require a certain humidification as well.
It depends on what their material is.
Right.
You know, but yes, they are susceptible to cracking, and if they're like not synthetic, you know, natural. So one of our customers is D'Addario out of Long Island. They're one of our, you know, we work with them in the music side of the business. Well, they're a 120-year-old string manufacturer, so we understand that market. Reeds for saxophones is another one. Rico Reeds is a big customer owned by D'Addario, that we have different relative humidities for reeds that are long-term storage, playability, ready to play. You know, it's like all these different, and they're all different relative humidities, 84, 75, and then 58.
Right.
So,
and it not only not only puts out that humidification, but then pulls it back in.
And that's the beauty of our technology and our patents were about, and we created a category called two-way humidity control. Everything else in life is one way. It's either trying to give it off through a sponge like in the cigars, or it's a desiccant that you find in your little shoe that's trying to pull moisture out. Well, we patented how do you regulate it at a set point
based upon the salt content or the type of salt. Yeah.
And they're all it's all food grade material.
Right.
I mean, they've been working with this in labs for 100 years.
Probably more, I don't know.
Good,
Good,
longer.
Good Lord, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so question.
Yes.
Usually I'm getting them, but so question. You've got, there's I don't know what to call it. It'd be like maybe an urban legend or urban myth that I've heard that Boveda, because of salt, there being salt in the product, that if that were to leak, that it would in a humidor, that it would damage your cigars or damage something in the humidor. Is that true?
Well,
or relatively true.
Well, think of water, okay? If water leaked in there, you'd maybe have a stain on the wood. Yeah, you get your cigars wet.
Well, and that in water, just simple pure H2O would ruin a cigar in sufficient quantities.
Yeah,
right.
Absolutely. But again, as I said, we're food grade components.
So it's not going to be there's no. I'm sorry, jumping in, but hey, this is the way. This is the way some of our discussions in my world are. It almost sounds like an argument. Or like what do they say? Well, you're Irish. It's like it's not really Thanksgiving until the turkey goes skittering across the floor, right?
Exactly.
You've heard that one.
I have heard.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, food grade. Therefore, there's no what I'm getting at is there's no toxicity to it. Yeah. So if something were to get on a cigar in some micro unknown level, that imperceptible level, nobody's going to tox out.
No. No, I mean you can.
You don't have to throw away your cigar because it was exposed to some content.
You can wipe it off. I mean, but that is such a minor incident that would ever happen. If somebody were to crush it. In our 27 years, has it happened? Sure. Somebody broke a packet.
Yeah.
But the thing is that there's people out there trying to say salt is corrosive and it's not good for things. Well, first of all, through the Boveda packet, all that comes out of this is pure water vapor, and it's a reverse osmosis membrane. This is the cleanest, most purified water vapor you can get.
And the packaging is not paper. Well, maybe it is a paper, but like you said, it's a membrane.
There's a membrane.
Yeah.
It's a reverse vapor phase reverse osmosis membrane. That's a mouthful. But
similar to what they use in water purification systems.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Even better. So all that comes out is water vapor.
Right.
So there is paper on this which is extruded to a film, which is our membrane.
Right.
And that's also the secret sauce of our technology as well. But so extremely safe. I mean, we came out of the food industry. Two of my partners were food chemists and food packaging engineers. So we understand that world very well.
Yeah, and that goes hand in hand. I mean, you've heard the whole thing about, wine is really food.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I might be stretching a little bit, but that stick, at least for the soul, might be food, right?
That's right, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You're not going to be able to chew on it and exist on it, but although I've known a few who probably could, old timers, Yeah. So this is extremely fascinating to me. Now you're talking about the water vapor being, I'm going to say, expelled from the membrane and then being pulled back in. In my experience, when I've used the product, I will leave them in a humidor until they're dried out. They're hard. And I don't know if that's the proper application, is it?
Well, that's how most people do it because that's when you know they're done.
Right.
Now they're expired prior to being crisped because it's lost its available water within there. So you'll have the salts in there that are still pliable, but it's done.
But you would have that, I'm going to call it a device. You would have that device at some point in your humidor, and correct me if I'm wrong, you know the technology better than I do. But at some point, you would have this pulling the moisture back out of your cigars, or am I wrong?
No, you're wrong, because what would happen is you're trying to buffer, if you're in a humidor, that humidor is losing air through the walls. They're not, wood humidors are not airtight seals.
And the cedar of the lining.
Yeah. So unless you're in something that is completely airtight, they'll self-sustain until you replace.
Okay.
Within reason.
So it's not a really bad thing to let it go until it's hardened.
No, but you'd want to stay on it. You'd want to, check them often. But here's the beauty.
It's not brain surgery to reach in there and go, oh, okay, yeah, it's it's getting pretty stiff.
The other thing is we have an auto ship program that shows that we'll ship these to you every 3 months.
Right.
So that's your built-in reminder of throw out the old, put in the new. It's like your air filter at home, right? And your furnace and your AC. If you have it show up to you, that's like, oh, that's right, I got to go do that. Otherwise,
Oil and filters on your vehicles.
Yes.
Rotate them out. You change them every so many miles. Some people do it on a calendar. Some people do it on use.
Yeah.
So interesting. Now, I have kind of just organically experimented with something, and are you a shooter? Do you know firearms at all?
No.
No.
Let's say no more than anything else.
Sure, but
I own a firearm, but I don't regularly go out and shoot.
No worries. But you own a firearm.
Yeah.
You know how to take care of it. You oil it, lubricate it. Basically, don't humidify it.
Yes.
I have experimented with using Boveda packs when they've gone crispy, like literally, like they feel solid. And I've put them in as a dehumidifier for certain things. I've not yet experimented with firearms because I was thinking of the whole salt thing in my head, and you don't want to expose your firearm with salt. But so, good idea or bad idea?
Well, I mean, if you take a real Boveda, since it's two-way humidity control, it will absorb excess moisture. If the number, let's say the number is 69% on this, you expose it to 80% relative humidity, it's going to absorb that excess humidity. This will puff up.
Well, and I was just going to say, the experiment that I ran was taking one of these when it was literally rigid, and I put it in to a sealed container of water with on a little platform, so it was not touching. I mean, it was 3 or 4 inches above the level of water, and it did not completely, I don't know what to call it, reconstitute or rehydrate, but it became very flexible after that.
Yeah, because it took in the moisture.
Okay.
So we've had people here, the best way to reconstitute a Boveda is to buy a new one.
Yeah, exactly.
that's what we say. But people have taken, which is, I don't know, they've dumped this in water when it's been dried out, and it will absorb water back in. But you've changed the chemistry of the product in that.
I would think so, yeah.
So now you just have a pack full of water.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's the, I mean, yes, if we didn't have two-way humidity control, it would never do that.
Right.
So it can do it.
Okay, and that was just me goofing around at one of my offices.
The idea is that anything that needs to stay at an ideal level, we will add or remove moisture to stay at that level.
Right.
So we are as much of a dehumidifier as we are a humidifier.
Okay.
And if you have guns that you want to keep at 50% relative humidity, then buy our 49%. And it will take out the excess humidity and maintain it. So,
and I'll be real candid with you, Tim. I'm not sure what the relative humidity of a safe is supposed to be, or say a firearms case. Well, but I would imagine it's supposed to be 0. But
no, because you need.
If it was a wooden stock, you don't want it to be 0.
Stock, yes. All you're trying to do is prevent mold or rusting on certain products. So like guns, you don't want ammo to be overly wet because then it doesn't perform. You don't want your gun to have rust on it because of too much moisture, but you don't want the handle or the stock to crack because it's extremely dry.
Right.
So 50% is that ideal spot for ammunition as well as guns.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, hey, I
just
learned
musical instruments.
Yeah. Okay. I just learned something from you, brother. So you could use the packs that you target for musical storage. That could be used in and I'll just say, based upon your research and understanding and experience, that could be used in a firearm safe or a gun travel case, a gun case of some kind. Okay, beautiful.
So and if you get, gun cases, a lot of people put in those wands and they plug them in, they heat.
Yeah.
That's just to dry up moisture.
Right.
Same concept, other than that can't control it to a certain level. That's just going to try and take as much out as possible.
Right.
Whereas we will maintain it.
Hence my comment earlier about, I was thinking it was 0%. But that actually doesn't make sense. Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
That's not good. I mean, arid is 20% relative. That's that's dry.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like being in Vegas, right?
Yeah. The Sahara. A lot of other places.
Yeah.
Actually, I even think the Arctic might be considered that.
Well, yeah. I mean, it depends. Cold weather does interesting things to the relative humidity.
Yeah, absolutely. Even though you're surrounded by ice and water and whatever. Anyhow, we're getting off we're getting off into the weeds. I love the weeds. Well, I don't actually imbibe weeds, or weed, but yeah. Okay, very good. So a potential different direction then. Anything else?
No, I just appreciate your time.
No, I appreciate your time. Hey, you're here making your connections, doing your thing, and
we love what we do.
Yeah.
We love cigars. That's how we got in the industry. But we love the ability to work with other industries and protect products. I mean, here's a slogan that we have internally. We protect people's passions so you can enjoy them.
Yeah.
Whether that's your guitar, whether it might be cannabis, or your cigar, or your ammunition, your gun, whatever. We protect those items that are important to you.
Yeah.
And so we enjoy being able to do that.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Quick question: favorite type of cigar?
Wow.
You don't have to use a brand because you work with a lot, but you know what I mean, like Maduro, Connecticut.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite?
I really like Cameroon wrappers. And to me, they have a sweetness and a subtleness to it, yet you get some complexity out of it.
Yeah.
So obviously the Fuente family is extremely good at using Cameroon wrapper on Don Carlos or Hemingway's 858s.
Yeah.
But if I go, I love that. But I also love Nicaraguans. I mean, I love full-bodied cigars. And there's so many great manufacturers out there. Like I'm smoking right now is a Tatuaje.
Oh yeah.
The brown label. Love this. I mean, so it's full of Nicaraguan tobacco, so you get some fullness out of that. But again,
well, Cameroon was, as a very, very young person, my first cigar that I was acquiring for myself was Cameroon wrapped. They were great.
They're great.
Of course, the funny story about that was I was kind of a poor kid, even though we fenced. I had to get my own foil to fence with a group of guys, and we thought we were being really sophisticated by having cigars and a beer afterwards. Of course, bear in mind, I was pretty young. The Cameroon cigars were Dutch Master Elites that were machine-made cigars with, the paper, the paper wrappers. But that's what I could afford. So,
we all start there somewhere.
And then it delved into other things too. So and we were just talking about Cameroon earlier too.
Yeah,
whole different subject on Cameroon.
That's right.
And favorite adult beverage, if you have one.
Oh wow, gosh! I could go from I like brown water, I like whiskeys and bourbons, but I love red wine and I drink beer. So I would say if I were to sit down with a cigar, it's probably be a single malt.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. Any particular distillery?
Oh, I like Balvenie. I think they do a great job. Man, I go into blended whiskeys. I had a Johnny Walker Black last night on ice. I like that too. Tours, whichever, that's simple stuff. But you get into, I like Lefroy, but I'm not a big peaty guy. I like more of the,
It's kind of funny. I'll share with you as soon as we're finished. But you're definitely a brother from another mother, and I got it. Yeah, there's some parallels there. You have a very good trip home.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of the show. Appreciate you guys and what you do.
Yeah.
And again, take care.
Thank you. Well, it's a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank
you.